Viewers, it's a historic day. It's a monumental occasion. The monument to the resurrection of the long suppressed Hindu civilizational aspirations is now complete. And look at it, viewers. There you can see it in its full glory. Resplendent it stands. It took over 500 years in the making, but the work on the Ram Mandir, built on the hallowed Janmabhoomi of Maryada Purushottam, has ended with the raising of the Dhwaj on its tallest spire. The freely fluttering flag seems to announce to the world that a victory has been scored against the forces that worked to erase Hindu civilizational heritage, the predominant culture of this country. The forces that made millions of Hindus defensive about their traditions and their history because they claimed that the faith lacked any redeemable attributes. For years altogether, viewers, we are being told that the Hindu faith is riddled by all sorts of regressions, negatives. It is addled by divisions, distinctions, prejudices, and backward thinking. Little wonder then that the Prime Minister paid a moving tribute, relieved that the pain finally had been put to rest. And what was the pain he was talking about, viewers? Listen.
आज संपूर्ण भारत, संपूर्ण विश्व राममय है। हर राम भक्त के हृदय में अद्वितीय संतोष है, असीम कृतज्ञता है, अपार अलौकिक आनंद है। सदियों के घाव भर रहे हैं, सदियों की वेदना आज विराम पा रही है, सदियों का संकल्प आज सिद्धि को प्राप्त हो रहा है। आज उस यज्ञ की पूर्णाहुति है जिसकी अग्नि 500 वर्ष तक प्रज्वलित रही।
The ceremony had barely ended that leaders from the opposition, in particular the Congress party, began derisively chiding the Prime Minister for attempting to milk the moment to consolidate the BJP's vote bank of all things, viewers. Yes, they reduced the moment and the message to an election campaign, an election speech. Viewers, this is what some of the Congress leaders said. One of them came out and said it is someone's personal choice to participate in a religious event, but BJP has always tried to be religiously relevant. BJP uses religion for politics. This communal politics instills doubt. So as Sandeep Dikshit said, just because the Prime Minister decided to partake of this historic moment. Now think about it, viewers, and let's just hold those views of Sandeep Dikshit and split the screen with the visuals. Viewers, just think about it. Many Congress leaders, many Congress Prime Ministers have attended religious functions, Kumbh Melas, and other glorious festivals across the plethora of religions. When they've done so, have they been signaling to a vote bank? If they were, viewers, then of course they stand equally guilty of practicing what they accuse Prime Minister Modi of doing. Now, viewers, think about this also, that you have had instances where Congress leaders have participated, viewers, in functions of one community at the risk of negating participation in the functions of the majority community? Were they also playing vote bank politics? Viewers, there are more reactions. Let me take you through another couple. Another Congress leader has come out and said this country has no religion as per the constitution. Then why does the Prime Minister want to hoist this flag? Will he hoist a flag on a mosque, Gurdwara or a church? He wants to hoist a flag on the Ram Mandir for political benefit so that he can benefit in the UP elections, instigating religious sentiments in the country. He should learn secularism from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, unquote. Viewers, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, secularism was represented by his decision on several occasions, and at least one clear one, to visit the Kumbh Mela and take a dip in the Sangam. Was he also, viewers, playing to the galleries? When he offered the Dargah when he offered the Chaddar rather, at the Dargah of Chishti in Ajmer, was he also playing to the political galleries? Was he confusing his role as a Prime Minister and as the leader of a sect? Why didn't the Congress call out Nehru for blurring the lines, as it does with the alacrity that it does when it comes to the Prime Minister? When the Prime Minister went, for example, to the Middle East and he stepped into a large number of mosques, and even in Gujarat, why didn't the Congress come out and say that he was, at that time, blurring the line between church and state, or viewers, state and religion? The BJP slammed the party, the Congress in particular, and its cohorts for once again blighting a moment of rare communion among Hindus as they celebrated the temple, which, according to the BJP and many others, is a physical manifestation of an intangible oblation to the torchbearer of Sanatana morality, Prabhu Ram. But then the BJP said it wasn't surprised, as Bharat's Hinduness has always irked the Congress. Is this true? What does the historical record tell us? Here are some facts to consider, viewers. Congress's contempt for Hindu heritage, viewers, is the question that we want to establish. Is it true? Well, left Hindu temples under state control while keeping churches and mosques free. A colonial-era bias continued under Congress rule for many, many years, and it still continues. They froze historical injustices with the Places of Worship Act, dismissing Hindu civilizational memory as communal. You can extend this or that argument, viewers, but when you single out a couple of communities or three, then that is not an act of viewing all religions equally. They opposed Somnath reconstruction, treating Hindu resurgence as revivalism, delegitimized Ram Janmabhoomi movement, branding Hindu claims as regressive instead of civilizational, imposed Marxist colonial frameworks on history, erasing Hindu achievements from textbooks, alienated Sanskrit and Vedic knowledge systems, portraying them as archaic and casteist, mocked Hindu symbols in political discourse. Example, viewers, the Hindu rate of growth, reinforcing colonial derision, elevated colonial narratives in academia, dismissing indigenous scholarship as unscientific. Viewers, there is a lot that we can go into. All of this prompts us to ask some basic questions, and let's open this up to an informed and engaging conversation without, hopefully, viewers, crosstalk and, of course, invective. So let's open this up. I want to first and foremost begin this evening's conversation with Mr. Pavan Verma, who's written very wonderfully received books on our Hindu heritage. In fact, one of those books I read and found it very, very, very illuminating, so much so that when I wrote my own book and co-authored it, we borrowed heavily from that book and the insights, and also interviewed Pavan Verma ji at his residence. So got a huge insight into how perhaps a certain narrative was built against free and fair inquiry into the Hindu tradition, and how it was lumped with communalism and so on and so forth. First of all, Pawan Verma ji, is there a reason tonight for us to say, okay, there is a reclamation taking place, a reclamation of a civilizational heritage that had been long ignored?
Yes, Rahul, I would say so, because in spite of the earlier controversies, this particular reclamation has been done in the way Maryada Purushottam Ram would like it, through a judgment of the highest court of the land. It has been done with devotion, and it is a reclamation because it is once again a tribute being paid to the place of birth of Shri Ram, who is worshipped in millions by Hindus, and I think it's a day to be happy about. As you know, the book you are referring to, The Great Hindu Civilization, is a book I wrote because there was a feeling in certain circles that if you talk about some of the achievements of our ancient civilization, it was tantamount to becoming either archaic or primitive or even worse, in a way, an extreme Hindu right wing. Whereas without any of these, you can genuinely investigate into the glorious achievements of the ancient past, which has been for 4,000, 5,000 years, was a largely Hindu civilization. So in that sense, I'm happy and proud. And that reclamation, by the way, Rahul, has to take place in our minds. Because one of the great legacies of Macaulay, which also the Prime Minister referred to recently, was the colonization of our minds. You see, colonialism is not about physical subjugation alone. In much greater measure, it is about the colonization of our minds. And Macaulay is the one who wrote the thesis for it, that to create native subjects who would be black in color, but who would in every respect try to be clones of the rulers. And for a very long time, and even today, the fact that we are having this conversation in English, of which I am not against, our minds remain colonized, and somewhere there is a sense of heenta or inferiority when we either talk of our languages or of our ancient past in terms which are objective and which can assess their greatness. At the same time, I would like to stress, and I am saying this without any sense of partisanship, religion is a great inheritance of India. But religion should never be used for political purposes, because that is, I believe, against the spirit of our constitution. So if any political party uses religion to divide people, that is wrong. And above all, Maryada Purushottam Ram would have considered it wrong. Mohan Bhagwat, at the time of the inauguration of the temple, quoted precisely these lines from Tulsidas' Shri Ram Ramcharitmanas, on which too I have written a book, where he said, what is the definition of Ram Rajya? He said, Sab nar karahi paraspar preeti. That land in which all people have respect and love for each other's opinions and their personas. So I think, in my view, Shri Ram stands for that. We should try and follow his path, his advice. And this debate about religion automatically becoming a divisive subject should end, provided politicians also don't use it for that purpose.
Politicians also don't use it for that purpose, and there is no, of course, evidence to suggest that today's ceremony lent itself to some campaign. Viewers, and therefore I want to bring in Sanjay Jha. Mr. Jha, before I bring in also David Frawley, Vedic scholar, and of course the BJP's national spokesperson, Tuhin Sinha. Now, Sanjay Jha, the Congress party reflexively has chosen to attack the Prime Minister. If the Ram Mandir is a symbol of cultural restoration, why is this celebration communal? Mahatma Gandhi, for example, leaned on some of the ideas of Lord Ram. He wanted to talk about Ram Rajya. Was he in favor of some sort of religious state? No. I think Lord Ram himself doesn't lend to easy politicization. He was not some divisive figure. His philosophy was universalist in outlook.
Well, good evening, Rahul, to you and to all my three distinguished panelists. I think Pawan has made an excellent introduction and in a very nuanced way explained both the beauty of this great religion of Hinduism as well as why it needs to be decoupled from the politics of our times, which is also a reality that we cannot ignore. Now, let me be very upfront here. I'm a practicing Hindu. In my home in Mumbai, I have a temple. And I always tell myself, because I grew up, my father was a professor, but he was also a priest in his own right. And one of the things that I learned from him very early in my life was that Hinduism was very inclusionary. In my home, I've had people from the minority community who have been part of our bread and breakfast. I've had people who have worked with us who belong from different religious communities. So we grew up with a very eclectic, shall we say, viewpoint or interpretation of Hinduism. Ever since I got into politics, though, of course, I also knew that as a student of history, that religion could become an instrument for political windfalls, for those who saw in it an opportunity to play around with the sentiments of the ordinary citizens of a country. Which is why, the famous quote that patriotism and religion do become the bedrock of people with a very nefarious agenda if they have one. I just feel one thing, Rahul, that, when you asked me this question as to why are people, and I haven't heard too many comments or saw some on your program, where some people from the Congress or the opposition have questioned Mr. Modi, being part of the religious ceremony today. I don't think it's got anything to do what Mr. Modi did today. It's got more to do with the culmination over a period of time of the way the BJP as a political entity has been conducting itself in India. It's not episodic. So let me just make that point. I have been critical of Mr. Modi on your program, and that's got more to do with the violence that one has been seeing, both verbal and physical, in India since 2014 in particular. Now, we can always argue it happened before. Yes, it did. But what has been happening since, whether it is lynching, whether it's calls for genocide, whether it's bringing in laws in a manner that is not being participated with the minority community, whether it's the Operation Bulldozer, whether it's RSS people saying we don't believe in secularism. These are very serious issues.
Where's the RSS said they don't believe in secularism? In fact, if anything, you've had Mohan Bhagwat in a press conference that went on for 3.5 hours, going the extended mile to suggest that the RSS is opening its doors and has actually opened its doors to minorities. There is an RSS Muslim Munch and so on and so forth. There is a women's wing for Muslim women and women from other denominations. The fact is, viewers, this is a subjective interpretation. And this is where I chafe sometimes at the narrative because, and I'm not indulging here in whataboutery, but there are specific questions to be asked. Does the state today, under Modi, favor one religion over the other? Is it dispensing resources in a manner that seems to excommunicate one community and include others? There is no evidence of that. In fact, I can tell you and give you some examples of when the Congress was in power, when they were making laws exclusively to suit a particular community, when states' resources were being given and to one particular community, and that was described as inclusive politics. So, at the expense of another community, viewers. And the Sikhs had a problem. The Christians have had a problem. The Hindus, of course, felt that they had been completely seconded to another community. And I can talk even about when the government of the day decided to overrule the Supreme Court on an issue which would have liberated thousands and millions of Muslim women from misogyny. But even that was not considered. So fundamentally, we can get into a blame game, but I think the record speaks for itself, viewers. Let me investigate this a little further. And let me ask the BJP's national spokesperson, is secularism in India meant to restrain only Hindu identity while allowing every other identity unfiltered expression? And do you feel that this has happened in the past? And if so, can you give 2 or 3 examples? And then I can get a response from Sanjay Jha, maybe even Pawan Verma ji, if he feels up to it.
Well, good evening, Rahul. Good evening, everybody. Today marks a watershed moment in our civilizational journey. So let me first extend my greetings to every Ram Bhakt and every, Indian rejoicing on this occasion. Now, at the core of your question lies a very, fundamental problem which, we have been in denial of. There is a basic difference. There are 2 basic differences between the BJP and Congress party in terms of, the fundamental character of the parties. We believe India is a spiritual, civilizational democracy, which extends across 10,000 years. Most members of this Congress party, if we go by their conduct and behavior, make it seem that India's history started in 1192 with the invasion of Ghori. Why else would Rahul Gandhi rush to, Babar's tomb in Afghanistan, in Kabul in 2005, but in the last 2 years, he has not had the time to visit Ayodhya, which is barely 125 kilometers away from his constituency. The second difference is what Prime Minister Modi highlighted today. The mindset of slavery, the Macaulayan mindset, which, somehow Nehru himself carried at various times. For example, in 1959 Independence Day speech, which was a good 12 years after he became Prime Minister, what was the need to tell Indians that, we are not capable of working hard enough like the Europeans? So this mentality of slavery extended itself, and, the fact that they have not been proud of the civilizational moment which we witnessed today is an extension of that moment of slavery. So these are core differences which define with the 2 parties every day. They rush to, to support the enemy's narrative and start questioning us on the perceived or the imagined losses during Operation Sindoor, but don't celebrate our success when our army chiefs, when our DGMOs, give every evidence of it. So, this difference in the character, in the attitude reflects on all occasions. But why it is important to shed this servile mindset today is very simple. Today we have a demographic advantage which will peak in 2041, but which will also cease to exist in 2055. If we go ahead as a nation, if we surge ahead as a nation, with that self-doubt in our minds, we will not be able to optimize our productivity. And so in every election in the last few years, the Gen Z of this country has been giving a befitting response to Congress party.
Rahul, a quick response.
Okay, no, 1 second. I just want to bring in Dr. Frawley also. Dr. Frawley, and this question comes out to you. You're, of course, a Vedic scholar and Indophile. Bharat is a Hindu nation, not a Hindu state. It's a civilizational state. And I want to ask you, how does a ceremony such as this sit with the constitutional commitment to secularism? Many people say that it's at odds. What's your response?
Well, you have to understand that a constitution, of course, is a human document. It's to some degree an intellectual or at least a legal formation. But a country is also its people, its land, its culture, its civilization. Constitution cannot circumscribe a civilization, and it cannot define the role of the devatas. Of course, it has its place, but the idea of worshiping a constitution is going too far. And secularism is the idea that religion should not supposedly interfere with constitution or with a government. But we actually see that constitutions have brought in different countries, even in the Western world, they have a lot of Christian influences. To the Islamic world, often the Quran itself is the constitution. so that the Constitution has its place as bringing up issues. And of course, now there are so many amendments to constitutions. I think America has over 20 now. And therefore, we must recognize the role of Dharma as a planetary force, as a universal force, as laws of nature, laws of consciousness, laws of psychology, not in a deity controlling things from above, but that there is a certain order and also ethical as well as creative and spiritual order to life.
Many will say that the ceremony is a nod to Hindu revisionism and assertion. You've heard those two comments by the Congress leaders. How do you respond to such people?
Well, ceremonies, for example, there's often a criticism of karma yoga. Oh, it's just action. But karma yoga, or a ritual, is action done with awareness. And it's action done in a pursuit of a higher awareness or higher goals. So our actions should be rooted in awareness and attention, meaning that life should be a ritual in the sense of a sacred action, an aware action, a conscious action. We don't need to look down upon a ritual. The Hindu rituals use all these special aspects of nature, whether the rocks, the stone sculptures, the flowers, of course, the prana, pratishta, and also the temple itself is a doorway to the subtle lokas. Okay. It takes us beyond simply a material vision, opens the inner eye, higher values, and it creates a place where the subtle beings, the devatas, can descend and connect to this physical world and bring higher prana, higher awareness to it. And that is why temples must be built to maintain, you might say, the vastu, and also to become the pillars of support for the country, which is not simply a political matter, it is also an issue of understanding the universe, connecting to cosmic intelligence, and of course, Atman, Brahman as of course.
Okay, let me very quickly bring in Pavan Verma. Pavan Verma, can a party, and I'm running out of time on this debate, but can a party that opposed Somnath, dismissed Ayodhya, and froze the POW Act injustices, genuinely claim moral authority on secularism? This is a fundamental question I'm asking you. Does the Congress critique the Prime Minister, or is it reacting to the resurgence of Hindu self-confidence it itself sought to suppress?
Quickly, because time is short, Rahul, I want to sum up 3 or 4 things, if with your permission. First of all, I've written publicly, both in my books and otherwise, that I think Prime Minister Nehru's decision to say that Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the President, should not attend the inauguration of the renovated Somnath Temple was wrong. In our country, we respect all religions. We are not secular in the sense that we are anti-religion, but we must respect all faiths. Secondly, I think the Constitution does not stand in the way of Dharma, because the fundamental right is the right to practice, profess, practice and propagate your religion. So I think that aspect should not be conflated. I just want to make this point. I just want to make an important point. For both the Congress and the BJ, in fact, all political parties, the inspiration for respect of all religions and people comes from the basic fundamental Mahavakyas of Hinduism.
Yes.
When you enter parliament, the first thing you see is Udar Charitanam Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is a family. It is our religion, it is Hinduism, which says that Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, wise people call it by different names. Yes. It is Hinduism which says Ano Bhadraha Kritavo Yantu Vishvata. Let good thoughts flow from all directions. These are the inspirational values which all religions, I'm sure, in their own way practice, but Hinduism provides them the guidelines.
And today,
and they must animate the thinking of those who talk of this religion.
I think
Be
that
it
is,
the BJP,
that is
the
critical,
Congress, or any
viewers.
politician.
Any political party must remember. And if you want to use the word fundamentals, then if you want to go back to the fundamentals, you want to truly worship the traditions, you want to worship the civilizational impulses, then go back to those 3 or 4 lines. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Because viewers, if India is plural, it is because Hinduism is plural. Remember that. So I just want to move on because there's a very important other aspect to the speech that the Prime Minister gave, and we must focus on that. The Prime Minister has once again taken a vow to unshackle Indians from a slave mentality that was insidiously seeded, according to him, in our collective minds by Western imperialists. Why? Because they believed that by breaking our confidence in our own abilities, they would ensure our complete surrender to their influence. Viewers, the Prime Minister said we must attain complete freedom from the mentality of slavery. 190 years ago in 1835, Macaulay tried to cut us off from our roots. 10 years from now, it will be 200 years since the unfortunate event. In the coming 10 years, we will free India from this mentality of slavery. This is what the Prime Minister said. The Prime Minister is singling out Macaulay for a reason. Macaulay worked very hard to convert Indians to the Western way by arousing a sense of disgust in their own civilizational heritage. Many, like Prime Minister Modi, believe that this contempt for Indian heritage was perpetuated by Indian elite, like Nehru, who had fallen hook, line and sinker for British propaganda. The Prime Minister's remarks have, of course, triggered a debate, as some claim that the Prime Minister is militating against progressives and progressiveness. Let's speak to RSS ideologue Ram Madhav, who decodes the Prime Minister's views. Thank you very much for joining me on this show, Mr. Ram Madhav. What exactly does the Prime Minister mean when he says he wants to rid India of the Macaulay mindset?
This has been one of the very important commitments or objectives of our movement right from the beginning. You see, the Britishers had left in 1947, but they left behind the mindset which we call as the slave mindset, which prompts several Indians to think low of their own identity, their own culture, their own value system, their own traditions, their own customs, and which encourages them to very easily latch on to whatever the Westerners say, whatever the Westerners talk. So that mindset of rejection of our own greatness, our own values, is what Prime Minister wants to end in our country. We should be proud of our great heritage, our great heroes, our greatness. We should revive that spirit of great respect and reverence for our past. Not only respect and reverence, now start behaving like true quintessential Bharatiyas, not Indians in the mold of Europeans and Westerners. That is what he meant when he said that the Macaulayist mindset should go. I am watching some commentaries. People are mistakenly representing as if he is opposing English language and all that. No, we are not against modernity. But in the name of modernity, you cannot become slaves of the Western attitudes. You should not become derogatory or rejectionist about your own values. That's what he meant by Macaulayist mindset. Let me tell you, there are enough people in our country who are still suffering from that mindset.
So let me ask you, because implicit in your answer is that someone has perpetuated this mindset even after the British left. Now, who is this group or entity that the Prime Minister refers to?
Oh, the whole liberal ecosystem that dominated India's political space after independence, right from the time of Jawaharlal Nehru down the line, the entire left liberal establishment was responsible for perpetuating that kind of a mindset in this country. Recently Nehru's papers were, uploaded through a portal by by some Congress leadership and all. In that, one fact came out that Nehru rejected Vande Mataram as India's national anthem simply because its tune was not very attractive for Westerners, for foreigners. Whereas Jan Gan Mana, the tune was good and it was appealing. So I'm saying that is the mindset. Countries cannot just behave in a manner that is very disrespectful to their own culture, their own history, their own past.
Sure. But at the very same time, many people are saying that the Prime Minister's declarations are anti-intellectual, they say, and anti-thinkers, the thinking elite, the thought elite. It is against the thought elite. Mr. Ram Madhav, how do you respond to that?
This whole attitude that Macaulayism is intellectualism is actually what we have to change in our country. Intellectualism in this country is not the prerogative of any one class of people sitting in elite institutions and elite government positions in the country or in political and social positions in the country. Intellectualism in this country exists at multiple levels, at the grassroots levels. You have intellectuals who live in villages in this country. There are great geniuses. They may not be able to speak a foreign language like English, like you and I probably speak, but they are no less, or in fact I would say they are more intellectually sound than many so-called great intellectuals who speak and write in English sitting in Delhi. But again, I don't want to make it like English versus local languages. Yeah. That's not the issue. But this whole attitude that intellectualism means, what Macaulayism is intellectualism, and if I oppose Macaulay, I am opposing intellectualism. That itself is a very clear indication of the slavist mentality that Macaulay has had successfully implanted in the minds of our people. Macaulay never visited India for that matter. He never came to India.
Never.
In 1835, his famous statement that we have to create a class of people in India through our language who will remain, in terms of their skin color, they will remain brown only. That's how they used to describe Indians, that racist interpretation. But by thought process, they will be any European, like any white man.
Yeah.
No, the whole idea was that the whole thought process of Indians has to be changed. They did not do it only to India, remember. They did it to many countries in the world. Those countries will tomorrow see a good example in India, what Prime Minister is trying to do, that can become an example to many other countries to come out of that stranglehold of Western imperialist mindset and reinvent their own selves.
So let me ask you, what shape will this pushback against colonialism take, or Macaulayism take? Now we are speaking in English, for example. It's been incorporated into us because of the British. It is also the de facto lingua franca of India, a bridge between us as a people and a bridge also to the West. People will accuse the BJP of hypocrisy and muddled thinking.
No, this is again the product of that Macaulayist mindset. First of all, let me tell you, go to Germany, nobody will speak to you if you speak in English. Go to France, majority of the people don't speak to you in English. I am talking about European countries. I am not even talking about a country like Russia, a country like China, a country like, probably Indonesia and other countries. These are all Eastern countries. I am even talking about European countries which do not speak English. But we ourselves declared that English is the international language and lingua franca. That doesn't minimize English importance. Repeatedly I'm saying, don't take this as anti-English. That's not the issue here. Macaulayism is a kind of mindset that makes you feel inferior about your own identity, somehow revel in the identity that you probably get through your association with the Western nations, namely English speaking countries, maybe with America or with Europe, their value system. If you follow that, then you feel proud. You know, on a lighter note, you and I we're South Indians, you know. You see in our hotels, in our restaurants, many of our friends desperately trying to eat a masala dosa with fork and knife. Because if you eat with your fingers, it's inferior, it's considered inferior. It's a very honest way of living.
Victoria territory. We talking languages. It has been is generating heart. The see him in the middle of your in Sandesh. Their before second. This is an unsettling truth that India by fraud investigating tax. Highest court, the justice. I tell a different story. If you give after massive risk normalizing, tempted, boot, plea, moment in your way back to the system. Let's put it now, and I want to first begin. I advocate going on here to loot up a bit back. I mean, this is the mentality of acts.
Right at the outset, at the whole look of cases side court. In this also developing, we need those lands.
Agree with my we should reach US, which asks it's now one word.
Let me ask the Mishra has made a offered.
Good evening. I say answering as to why this case.
Why away? They
I
have
should,
made to
I should,
should.
here and by a
whatever past loop country and then deal.
That is
You can disagree with this court.
but
I mean, come on.
time
Or more
December cases Joshi
no
Tell you something else. Subject to Indians, you can. If they had settled alleged decision,
let me
actually they don't
do matter. Remember, the scene aspect, I make metaphors view thing. Wait to ask serious that mentally with. I think that by Mr. C, and I'm sure that lawyers may all coming to this doesn't there is debate that is from here. That's why we're and I'm going to be focused on this case not in the state.
कोई खा नहीं जाएगा, धोखा सेफ रहेगा, सिक्योर्ड में मिनिमम 30 साल का रिटर्न देगा। अब इससे बेटर इन्वेस्टमेंट है तो बताओ। सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम, रहो बेफिक्र।
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.
The all-new Hyundai Venue, Tech Up, go beyond.
Long night?
You have no idea.
I got you.
Motorola Edge 60 Pro. Hello, Moto.